Hi biologists, let's start by looking at the learning objectives for this lesson. At the end of this lesson and following the biology syllabus, you should be able to define meiosis and know the functions of meiosis in multicellular organisms. What does this actually mean? What are we trying to learn? Well, basically, it's very straightforward. You have to know the definition of meiosis, which is a type of nuclear division. You also have to know the functions or the role of meiosis in many-celled organisms. Let's look at the definition and functions of meiosis. The definition of meiosis is that it is nuclear division in which one nucleus, seen here, divides to form 4 daughter nuclei, 4 new nuclei, each containing half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. Now this can be hard to accept because how can one nucleus form not only 4 daughter cells, but each of these cells having half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell? Now one can go into an in-depth explanation for such an occurrence, but it is not actually on our course. So on this occasion, I'm asking you to accept it at face value as it is a learning objective of this lesson and to basically learn this definition off by heart. Immediately after meiosis, the daughter nuclei are surrounded by cells. So in a nutshell, you really kind of end up with 4 new cells having half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. This is how eggs and sperms are created. Not only do these daughter cells have half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell, but they are also genetically different from each other. They are genetically different from each other because when they are formed, there is an exchange or a swapping of genetic material. Let's look at this definition of meiosis in a little bit more detail. When meiosis occurs, a diploid cell, a cell where the chromosomes are in pairs, will produce 4 haploid cells or 4 cells where there's only a single set of chromosomes in each cell. The chromosome number is halved. You might like to review another video to revise this material. Now these cells, these 4 new cells, are genetically different from each other. This is the case when eggs and sperms are formed, and genetically different to the parent cell due to the process of crossing over, or as we have said already, exchange of genetic material. We can see this in the diagram here, where we start with a cell, the diploid number being 4, meaning that this cell has 4 chromosomes and that the chromosomes are in pairs. We have 2 long ones here and we have 2 short ones there. When this parent cell undergoes meiosis, 4 daughter cells will be produced. Now these 4 daughter cells will have half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. So you can notice here in each of these cells that there are only 2 chromosomes. The haploid number of these cells is 2, or n is equal to 2. Not only do these cells just have 2 chromosomes each, but the chromosomes in each of these cells will be different to each other due to the process of crossing over. You can see the 2 chromosomes here in this cell on the top right are different genetically from the 2 chromosomes in the cell here in the bottom right. Now, as you said before, I'm asking you to accept this at face value and to accept the fact that this occurs. To aid your understanding, I like to imagine that this is rather like having 4 pearl necklaces. And if I drop the 4 pearl necklaces on the floor and they break up into little bits, and I say to you, "Oh, give me back 2 pearl necklaces." I don't care how you do it. Put the pearls together as best you can and just give me back 2. Basically, then you should realise that while you would hand me back 2 necklaces, the arrangement or order in which you put the pearls would be very different to the way in which they were originally. And that sort of helps me to understand what's going on here. Now, the process of meiosis occurs in the ovaries of a female or in the testes of a male. Now, this makes logical sense as meiosis is an important process in the formation of eggs and in the formation of sperm cells. Now, if we're talking about plants, then meiosis will occur in the anther of the flower, which is the male part of the flower, part of the stamen. Can you see men at the end of the word stamen and associate that with the idea of maleness? Meiosis occurs in the ovule of the ovary or the female part of the flower. Now let's look at the functions of meiosis, which is the second learning objective of this lesson. First off, meiosis allows sexual reproduction. It allows for the formation of eggs and sperms. Remember that the parental chromosome number is halved when gametes are formed. In other words, the eggs and the sperms, or gametes, contain half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. Now, this is a very important point because this means that when eggs and sperms meet each other or fertilize each other, they will go on to create an organism with the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. We can see this clearly in the case of human zygotes. Basically, human cells have 46 chromosomes each. In the female, each of her cells will have 46 chromosomes. Meiosis will occur in her ovaries, giving rise to gametes or sex cells, in this case eggs, with 23 chromosomes each. I call these the single ladies. 23 single ladies in each egg. In the male human cell, there will be, again, 46 chromosomes. Meiosis will occur in the testes of the male, producing sperm cells, each of the sperm cells containing 23 chromosomes. I call these the men in black. So we've 23 male chromosomes, 23 chromosomes in each male cell. When an egg is fertilized by a sperm cell, or when an egg and a sperm cell meet, they fertilize each other, creating a new cell which is called a zygote. Now, this new cell will have 46 chromosomes because 23 chromosomes from the egg, 23 single ladies, fertilized by 23 chromosomes, men in black, from the sperm cell. 23 and 23 making up 46. And you should be able to see that this zygote, this single cell, has 46 chromosomes, exactly the same as the parental cells. And all this zygote has to do now is grow by mitosis to recreate a new organism with the same chromosome number. So this concept is a very important function of meiosis. It allows sexual reproduction and the creation of an organism with the same chromosome number. The next function of meiosis is that it allows for variation. It allows for differences in the offspring. As we've said already, the daughter cells are genetically different to each other. They contain different chromosomes and they are genetically different to the parent cell due to the process of crossing over or this exchange of genetic material. Now, because the daughter cells are genetically different to each other and to the parent cell that was there originally, that will result in variations or differences in the organisms that are produced. This is why siblings, brothers and sisters, will never be identical to each other because they are produced each time by eggs and sperm cells that are genetically different. So in a nutshell, meiosis has two very important functions. It allows sexual reproduction to take place because it enables the formation of gametes, of eggs and sperms with the haploid number of chromosomes, and it allows for variation in the offspring, new combinations of genes to be found in the offspring, and this variation comes about due to the process of crossing over. So finally, let's have a quick look at the differences between mitosis and meiosis. This is an added extra as such, but you should be able to come up with this material as part of a challenge or a thinking cap question. In mitosis, two daughter cells are produced. T for 2 here, and mitosis is spelled with a T. So two daughter cells are produced. In meiosis, 4 daughter cells are produced. The chromosome number stays the same in mitosis, whereas in meiosis, the chromosome number is halved. As a reminder, in meiosis, you go from having a diploid cell, where the chromosomes are in pairs, to having haploid cells, where there is only a single set of chromosomes. The daughter cells in mitosis are genetically identical to each other. Again, have a look here. I in identical, and mitosis is spelt with an I. I-T, identical cells, and 2 of them are produced. That's an important point to bear in mind. Not only are the daughter cells genetically identical to each other, but they're also identical to the parent cell. In meiosis, the daughter cells are genetically different to each other and different to the parent cell due to the phenomenon or process of crossing over, which we are going to accept at face value. And basically, there you have it. Practice in a jotter. Don't half do it. Now that we have reached the end of our lesson, have we achieved our objective? Can you define meiosis? Do you know the functions of meiosis in multicellular organisms?